Alright guys, welcome back to Thoughts On, the show where I talk about media that I've consumed recently. And this one's going to be a little different because I didn't consume this media recently. I actually played this a while ago because we're going to be talking about Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, I guess, to some extent. But I played the Pikachu version, and I thought this would be nice to talk about just before Sword and Shield come out. It comes out this Friday. When you're seeing this, you might be seeing this on the Friday that it comes out, or afterwards, who knows. But I thought this was actually supposed to be the first episode of Thoughts On when I started this series, but the first time I did it was really rambly. It was like over 20 minutes. I was like, nah, that's too long. I do have some notes here, so I am going to go over a few things, but first and foremost, I liked Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. I really enjoyed it, and I think the main reason I enjoyed it is because it was definitely nostalgia, and not nostalgia as in, oh, and getting to play as these Pokemon again. It's nostalgia because when I first played Pokemon Stadium, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu became is what I wanted. I wanted a full 3D version of Pokemon Red, where Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee are more like remakes of Yellow, but still, I wanted like a full remake of a Gen 1 game in 3D. We did get a remake of the Gen 1 games in 3rd Gen, which was cool because we got a 16-bit remake, but it was still 2D. While I enjoyed the updates, like certain things like Charmander being able to learn Metal Claw, which made fighting Brock a lot easier, it wasn't the same. It wasn't. I was still yearning for like a 3D remake, but those games are still good. So when this was announced, first off, I gotta say the advertising of this game wasn't good because I know what they were trying to do. They were trying to get the Pokemon Go players to go over to the Switch and play Let's Go, and I think that's why they decided to remake Yellow in this case, because the people who played Let's Go, most of them are like, oh, I remember Pokemon from 20 years ago, so I'm going to get this on my phone. It's free. It's an app. And then if they were really into it, then they could integrate it with the Let's Go game on Switch. And of course, that's a remake of the original. So again, more nostalgia fuel for that. However, I don't think it worked the way they intended, because really the people who were playing Pokemon Let's Go, I think, were only hardcores. So hardcore Pokemon fans or hardcore gamers or whatever. But in any case, like many people thought it was going to be a watered down Pokemon game. And, you know, in some instances it is, but I want to get out of the way that a lot of the complaints people have were for features that weren't introduced until later generations of Pokemon. And keep in mind, the first generation of Pokemon didn't even have genders or breeding. And I know that's a sticking point for a lot of people, but I mean, this remake wasn't meant to be a hardcore gamers remake. It was mostly for people who are nostalgic, essentially. And luckily it did add some modern features, like being able to transfer Pokemon, being able to have multiple saves if you have multiple accounts on your Switch, being able to transfer Pokemon between this and Let's Go. That was actually the main function of this and Go, sorry. The main function of this game, to get people who play Go to move over so you can move Pokemon from that. So, but essentially, I like to think of this game as a full 3D remake with some Pokemon Go stuff thrown in. So, I've got a couple of pros and cons I want to talk about. First and foremost, one thing that can be considered pro or con, the bike has pretty much been eliminated. Now, the bike was good for getting you around from place to place quickly, but in this game, they actually added the ability that you could ride on certain Pokemon. Because if the Pokemon, it's not all of them, but you can ride on certain ones, like, for example, Arcanine's one that I used during my streams of this game, and I think you can ride on Charizard, for example. Really, really cool. I also like they did bring back Mega Evolutions, even though it was only for Charizard, Blastoise, and Venusaur. And I think there's one for Mewtwo, but I'm not 100% sure. I like that they brought them back, and you had the choice of using both X and Y Charizards, Mega Charizards, which was nice. Would I have liked to see some of the other Mega forms that were in the previous games come in? Oh yeah, I definitely would. But I mean, the Megas were introduced so late into the game that it was more of just like a little Easter egg than it being like a full feature. One of the things that I really, really enjoy about this game is it's eliminated the need for random battles. This is something that Pokemon's needed to do for a long time, and it's finally here. And I understand that Sword and Shield are also going to take advantage of this. So I was very excited to see that. Also, I like that the game alleviates the need for grinding. this is will upset some people as well, because now you don't actually fight the Pokemon to catch them. When you run into the wild Pokemon, you catch them in the Pokemon Go style. Though now it uses the motion controls with the Joy-Cons, or if you're in handheld mode, it uses the gyro controls. This is good and bad. The motion controls work, except when going from an angle, I always had trouble when the Pokemon went to left or right, angling my throws. I didn't like that in handheld mode, it wasn't touch. You couldn't use the touchscreen like you would on like a cell phone when playing Pokemon Go, which didn't make any sense to me. I'm like, if you're trying to get the people who play Pokemon Go over to the Switch, let them play it the same way they play it on their phone. Like, maybe they won't hold it horizontally, but like they could hold the Switch up vertically and just like with one hand and do it. The Switch is not that heavy, so instead use the gyro controls to do the capturing. And I mean, I liked that for like being able to catch Pokemon better, but it was kind of annoying having to move the recenter everything and move the Switch to if the Pokemon moved. I didn't like it all that much. One thing I did like though about the capturing is they brought back the gaining experience from the previous games. I think it was X and Y that introduced it, don't quote me on that. But that basically eliminated the need for grinding. What they did to make things even easier is if you catch the same Pokemon in succession, you get more and more and more experience. And now the game, there is no XP share, it's just all Pokemon get experience all the time. So basically it's like XP share, essentially. And some people might not like that, but and at first when I played X and Y, when they forced it on you, I was like, I don't know about this. But now that I've played through more Pokemon games, I'm like, oh, grinding is such a pain in the ass sometimes in Pokemon. I'm so glad that I have this thing that will make it easier. One of the negatives of I have a black and white, even though I love black and white, is it sometimes can feel like a slog for its difficulty. But yeah, I think the capture mechanics are actually great. The battle system, finally getting like a full 3D Pokemon. I know technically we had X and Y, but on a console, it was really good. The game doesn't look that great. I mean, it was never meant to be a powerhouse graphically of a game, but it looks fine. I think they're using the same models and engine from that they've been using on the 3DS since the 6th gen games, but just up-res. Like, if you compare a screenshot for Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu to a screenshot from an emulator playing a 7th gen game, with it up-res to 4K, 720p, whatever, it looks the same. Because I don't know how many people know this, but 3DS has it has a resolution of 240p, and they did that for the 3D. But the models actually support up to, I think, 720p or 1080p or something like that. And if you have a graphics card that's good enough with emulation, you can make it look better. So yeah, essentially, it looks like a slightly better version of up-resing one of the 3DS games, which I guess could be made of like people be upset about that. But yeah, honestly, it was just a fun little game, so that's fine. One thing I just want to get back to using the controllers. This game you can only play with Joy-Cons, or the new Pokeball Plus controller. I don't like that. I wanted to be able to use a Pro controller. Not that it really mattered, because you can play this game with one hand, no problem, but I would have liked to have the option. That also means there's no amiibo support, as far as I can tell, unless I'm wrong about that. You can... The party is still limited to 6 Pokemon, but you can access the Pokemon box anytime, which I really liked, because sometimes I catch a Pokemon and I want to switch them out real quick, and you definitely can do that. The Pokeball Plus itself is like kind of a Pokewalker without a screen. You can put a Pokemon in it, and they can come with you, and they'll gain levels and whatnot. But there's no mini games or anything like that, and that's what I missed about it. You can't really connect with other people with it. It's just kind of there. Like... I mean, it also functions as a controller, a kind of an awkward controller, but it works. One other thing I'll say, though, having this, you can use 2 Joy-Cons and do co-op. So, and you don't need, somebody else doesn't need to have a file. They can just it's drop-in co-op. The other trainer gets one of your Pokemon to control, and you guys share the Pokemon party and just do double battles. There's actually an instance where I accidentally activated it, and I just went through, I think it was the rocket area with 2 trainers. I was just using 2 Joy-Cons to get through it. which was kind of cheap because a lot of battles were 2 against 1, but I just wanted to try the feature, and I thought it was really cool that you could have drop-in co-op like that. Sometimes my brother would drop in and play with me on my file, or I would drop in on his. But yeah, I want to talk about the connections with Pokemon Go. It's not introduced until you can get to Fuchsia City, and I think that's really late in the game for it to happen. That's like more than half the game is done by then, and I really wish they would have done something else with that to make it sooner, because I want to transfer some of the Pokemon from Pokemon Go that were like low CP, and I want to train them in Let's Go. I don't know. Also, the Safari Zone's gone, and it's been replaced with the Go Park, which is how you connect to Pokemon Go. That's fine, but I really miss the Safari Zone. We haven't had like a great Safari. Like I think the best Safari Zone I remember is the bug catching contest was the last thing from Gold and Silver, so it's long overdue. I would have liked to see a 3D Safari Zone, especially when you can see the Pokemon on the map. That'd be really cool. You can see like a Chansey or a Kangaskhan on the map. That'd be awesome. I will say though, catching Pokemon that are harder to come by is a lot easier in this game. They're in different areas, so it's not a one-to-one the same as the original games in terms of encounter rates and stuff like that. The candies from Pokemon Go are back. They work the same way. You use them to level up your Pokemon, and capturing sequential Pokemon, you can get more candies and then, you know, grind up their bones to make more candy, because that's how candy is made, from bones. One thing I will say though, another thing that bothers me is once you've transferred a Pokemon from Pokemon Go into Let's Go, you can't send them back. So once the transfer is made, and I don't think you can send Pokemon from Let's Go into Go either. I think it's a one-way street, and it's only one way to Let's Go, and that kind of sucks, because I'd love to train my Pokemon and then put them back into Pokemon Go, but maybe they just didn't have the foresight for that. But yeah, Pokemon are still version exclusives, but you can import from Pokemon Go, obviously, and you can still trade online with people, which is nice. I don't think there's any Wonder Trading or anything like that in this game, but, you know, it's only the original 151 plus the new Pokemon. I can't remember its name, the newer one, whatever. The biggest thing that I think is a great strength for this game is HM slaves are no longer needed. HMs actually aren't needed at all, because your partner, Pikachu or Eevee, depending on which version you pick, just has a move they learn that they can only do on the map, like outside of battle, to do cut, surf, strength, stuff like that. And I think that's really cool. That alleviates a big problem that Pokemon has had for a long time with HM slaves and shit like that. And I like that the Pokemon can follow you, and I think almost all the Pokemon can follow you. Not every single one can, because some of them are just too big, but I like that some of them follow you, and you can ride on them. Like riding on Snorlax, I think you literally just grip onto its gut, and I think that's awesome. I talked about that there's no breeding in this game. There's also no Pokemon powers, so if you're a fan of those, they're not in here. And there's also, and this is another sticking point with some people, there's no EV or IV training. It's just if you get high CP, that's where it is. So that's a big feature for some people that got cut. I know that I don't really care about IV or EV training, but I do care about CP in Pokemon Go. So I think it's just an easier system for people than going the IV EV route. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of people out there who are used to going for IVs and EVs and stuff like that. It did make shiny hunting a lot easier, though, that you can see Pokemon on the screen. So I actually ran to one shiny and I totally missed it while I was streaming. Someone else brought it up to me and I was like, no, it's gone. So yeah, so I missed my one and only shiny in this game. The only other thing too is the Pokemon Me feature, where you get to play with your Pokemon, is exclusive to your starter Pokemon, so Pikachu or Eevee, and that kind of sucks, but I mean, I never used it that much, and I'm really interested in using the camping feature in the new games coming out. One of the main things, though, I want to say is the fight with Mewtwo is interesting, and this is not just with Mewtwo, but this is with other legendary Pokemon. So initially, you don't most Pokemon, you just catch them in the catching mode. However, for certain ones, like Articuno, Moltres, Zapdos, and Mewtwo, because they're a higher tier Pokemon, this is the same as Snorlax as well, you have to battle them and there's a timer. So I think it's like Mewtwo's like a 5-minute timer, and it's actually kind of tough because he's a really powerful Pokemon. Even in the original games, he was really powerful, so it was hard to capture him because he can recover and stuff like that. But I had trouble catching him. And I mean, some people might be like, well, if you just play the game, you know, you have the right combination, it'll be fine. Well, I wanted to play the Pokemon I really like, so that I wanted to train. But yeah, that was a little difficult. It was actually a decently difficult final boss. Just a few of the minor things. The new rival who replaces Gary, because Gary is a regular character, or Blue or whatever, in this game. He's kind of a dink. He's kind of just like an oddball guy who's just like your friend, but he's not really. I kind of miss the smell you later attitude of Gary or Blue that a lot of people have. And a lot of people have complained that all the new rivals have been too nice. And I agree with that. And then there's like rivals like How, which were kind of annoying. So I understand that as well. But in terms of the gameplay, it's essentially the same as the original Pokemon Yellow, just with a new facelift and some new mechanics and some Pokemon Go mechanics added in as well. I think this game was... it wasn't received well at first because hardcore fans were expecting another hardcore game or a remake of first gen with newer mechanics, and I think that was not the way to go. Again, this game was advertised poorly because most people thought it was just an add-on for Pokemon Go or just a connector game with Pokemon Go, but it is really a full remake. And I actually I said to my buddy Brother Kirby that he didn't really have much interest in it, but I said, you know, if you get a Switch, I'll send you a copy, and then I want to know what you think. And he gave me his own thing. He was very mixed on it too. He thought it was, you know, he liked it, but he wasn't like a big fan of some of the changes they made. And anyways, I'm looking at the time here, and I realize that I'm getting close to that 20-minute mark from last time. So let me just end this off by saying it's not the best Pokemon game out there, but if you want a nostalgia trip and you're tired of playing the originals over and over and over again, like I have to nauseum, and you want to live that, if you were like me back in the 90s and Pokemon Stadium really wanted you to have a full-on adventure with your Pokemon in 3D on your console, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee are not a bad place to start. They're very casual in terms of Pokemon games, so if you need a casual experience too, they're good. But yeah, I still really enjoyed it, and like I said, it made my top 10 games of 2018 list because I did enjoy the games. I thought the game was really fun, and I played through it twice. I played a personal file, and I streamed it. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I think you'll enjoy it too if you just give it a chance. Just give it a chance and play through the story and see how you feel. You'll find little things. There's tons of stuff I didn't talk about that they fixed or they changed that made for a better gameplay experience. But just give it a shot. Like that's all I'm saying before you hate on it. Now, and if you play Pokemon for the breeding and the EV and IV training and stuff like that, you know what? This game probably isn't for you. But if you want the story to play through the story mode, just the main story of Pokemon again, you can do that as well. I will say this is the first Pokemon that I completed the Pokedex again since my original Red file. So I caught all the Pokemon except the new one. So I guess I didn't really complete it, but I got pretty close. And because I got the Pokeball Plus, I got Mew as well. So that was added to my Pokedex. But yeah, I really enjoyed the game, and I thought the game was fantastic. And I'm very excited for Sword and Shield. What I will say here now is I'm getting Pokemon Sword, and I will be streaming it on my Twitch channel. So if you're not following me on Twitch, head on over to twitch.tv/Zeromaster. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'll be streaming Pokemon Sword, and that's at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you want to check out my playthrough of that, make sure you head on over there. Guys know where to find me. You'll see the links to my Facebook, my Twitter, my Patreon here on the screen. If you want to support me, you can through Patreon. I'd appreciate it, but if you don't have to. And thank you very much for listening to my rambling. This video is still 20 minutes, so I don't think it's going to help. We'll see how much I cut down. But yeah, thank you for watching, and thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next Thoughts On and my next reviews. Take care, and if you're around, come check out my streams of Pokemon Sword. Let's do this. Have a good one.